Greetings everyone and welcome to the first video of a new series that I'm going to be starting on this channel covering the Emperor's Children. In this video we're going to be paying special attention to the Lord Exultant, and I'll also be going over some colour recipes and how to make them a little bit more grimdark. As I said, this is the first in the series. I do have a couple more to follow from this, so make sure you are hitting that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of the Emperor's Children tutorials. So to start with, obviously I've not really kit bashed it, I've just added some additions to this miniature to make it a little bit more grimdark, such as some wires and chains and some skulls. And I've covered all this on, how to make things a little bit more grimdark in a previous video. So if you do want to check that out, the link for that will be in the description below. Also on his armour, I took a scalpel and I just added some little scratches and dinks into the armour itself rather than painting them on. Sometimes I do like them to actually be a physical indentation or a physical mark on the miniature that you can actually paint and go over. And then also for his cape, just to add a little bit of texture, I stippled on some liquid green stuff. I didn't do any sanding or anything like that this time just to finish that off, but I'll just add a little bit of grit to the bottom of the cape. And I've also detached this from the miniature just so it makes things a little bit easier when it comes to painting. So the main bulk and colour of the Emperor's Children is naturally a purple, and I like really using this colour scheme with the addition of a contrast paint just to warm it up a little bit and get some different tones in there. Now I know I am using an airbrush in this video, so don't panic. The video after this is one that uses a very similar colour scheme, because I've actually got a video coming out after this where it's a little bit easier and it's using a brush, and there's some alternative colours for the Emperor's Children in there, so you can always subscribe and check that out for if you wanted to do this via brush. And there's nothing to stop you using a brush as well for this video, but naturally I am going to be using an airbrush. Also, if you are interested in airbrushing or you're on the fence, there is also another video coming out this week on a new product that a company has sent me, and I'm really excited to show it you. And I think for any beginner or even an advanced, this video is going to be for you, so make sure you are going to be checking that out as well. So the main colour for this armour, I know it's a bit of back and forth, but this is what I like to do with my miniature. People are always like, how do you paint it like that? How do you get them tones? Well, unfortunately there is a little bit of back and forth. There's no quick way around it. But essentially I've gone around the miniature with a Naggaroth Night or a really dark purple, and I've coated the miniature in that. Now if you're going to use this on like an army scheme, then I'd probably get like the rattle can version of it and just prime all your models in that colour, and it'll just kill two birds with one stone. I'm then going to come in with some Emperor's Children as a highlight on some of that, and then also a tiny little bit of fulgrim pink. Now once you've done that, you want to work it up pretty bright so that it's almost like a zenithal with it, and this is going to act as the highlight for our contrast paint to go over the top. And for this I've just thinned down with some of the contrast medium. You'll notice in the video it does look a bit glossy at first because I accidentally mixed it in with some gloss varnish, but I'm going to mix it 50-50 with the airbrush with some voluptuous pink contrast paint and just work my way slowly around, building up those nice like magenta purple tones. And then finally I came back in with the fulgrim pink just as one additional little highlight on the armour. And then after that, you'll notice you get this really nice like purple to pink with this warm little mid-tone that's going on. And for me, that just represents a really nice Slanesh looking armour. And you've got some nice shadows and highlights in there, which also leans a little bit more in towards the box art of the miniatures. At this point, there is the unfortunate task of going back in and blacking out everything that you want to be black. I did originally want his cape and his robe to be purple, but it just clashed a little bit with the armour and just a bit too much going on, so I decided to do those black. And to highlight them, I just gave it a zenithal with an airbrush of a medium grey, and then I got a little bit one that's a little bit lighter, and I just dry brushed this over the robes and cape area, and this will just pick out any details. Nothing too fancy there. I just literally went in and just quickly highlighted some areas with a brush. Now the armour trim, I did originally want them to be a little bit more silver like the box art, but once I'd actually done them black like this, I really enjoyed it, and I just wanted them to shine slightly. So for this, I've got some Vallejo black, and it's actually a metallic paint, so it's just a really, really dark metallic paint. On the video, it does shine a little bit more than what it does in real life, but it still retains that darkness about it. So I just went in with all the armor trim and base coated out all those areas with the Vallejo black. And then for the actual silver metallic areas, such as his sword and any other bits that you might want to be silver, these were just base coated in Iron Warriors and given a dry brush of rung fang steel. Now I did want to create a little bit of slaanishness with the sword on his weapon, so I just got my airbrush and just added a small filter of the voluptuous pink or Magos purple contrast paint, and I just filtered this onto the lower half of the weapon. It's not a glow, it's not anything like that, it's just something that adds a little bit of detail and just blends and ties everything together. All the gold trim and all the golden sections on the armor or any little decorations, these were base coated in AK Rusty Gold and highlighted with peridot alchemy from scale color 75. Again, I've applied the base coat, and all my dry brushes for any metallics, I always dry brush them on just to add those microscopic marks and pick out those details. For the flesh sections, this is just a very simple recipe. It's 2 thin coats of cadian flesh tone, and then I start to mix in flayed one flesh with each successive highlight that I go up. So all that means is I just get a little bit of flayed one flesh for each highlight, just mix it in with the cadian flesh tone, add a highlight, mix a bit more in, add a little bit more, and then this way you've got the ultimate control, so you're not adding too much highlights straight away, and it's just going to retain some of those nice blends as you go up the skin. And I did do the same skin for the leg and his face. I had this weird concept of, you know, it's his actual skin that he's put on his leg. He didn't want to get rid of it, so he's just attached it to the outside of the armor. For the eyes, I just went in there with some thin black paint, and I just sort of, there's like messy mascara, like when mascara goes on and it sort of drips down a little bit, and made sure his eyes were black. And then once you've done that, I just gave the entire area a wash of Citadel's Targor Rage Shade. This is a really nice purpley brown reddish tone that'll just complement the Slaaneshi skin perfectly. For the mouth areas or any areas that you want to add some blood or a little bit of sores, I came in with Citadel's Bazerker Bloodshade, or Caribou Crimson will also work really well for this, and I just added this in and around the mouth or any areas where I wanted some sores. Now at this point, once all your colours are on, we can start to weather and unify wash the miniature and push it more into that grimdark aesthetic. And for this, I'm going to be using some Enamel, specifically the Villainy inks range. And for this, I've got some Goons grime and also some decrepit filth. Now I know decrepit filth is not currently out just yet, unless you've got one of the tester kits. It is coming very soon. But if you're still wanting to do this scheme, there's nothing wrong with using the Goons grime and then maybe adding a little bit of the Ichor of the Damned if you've got that, or alternatively you could use something like an oil paint, like a brown, or mix it with a bit of black oil paint like the abtelung 502 smoke. And really the decrepit filth, even though it is like a darker blackish one, it's just to add a little bit more shadow and grime into those like shadow areas. But of course there's nothing wrong with just using the Goons grime. You'll still get a similar effect, but it's just for these certain areas I like to darken them up. And I'm doing this via brush, and I've mixed it with a little bit of mineral spirits just to help it flow into those gaps, and give it around 10 to 15 minutes to dry. And then the removal pass is like probably the most enjoyable stage. You can really get creative with this, and what I like to do first of all is just come in with a Q-tip or a sponge with nothing on it, not even some mineral spirits, and just do a general dabbing cleanup motion around the miniature first of all, and then after that, that's when I'll come in and use a tiny little bit of mineral spirits either on my Q-tip for the larger areas, and then I come in with a brush moistened with mineral spirits just to manipulate that grime, push it back into the shadows, add some streaks, and just make sure that everything is all nice and refined. And then once that's dry again, you can hit it with a blow dryer just to tie everything together, and now the miniature will look unifiedly washed. It'll also look weathered, and you've also got some streaks and some grime that's built up onto the miniature itself. For some added skin special effects, I've come in with Villainy Inks Carrion Crimson. This is a really beautiful enamel for any gore or flesh effects, and it's got these tiny little pigments inside that when one's dry leaves behind this mottled effect. Again, you can remove or add as much of this as you want using the reductive technique. For some additional weathering, I've got some Dirty Downs Rust just to really make this guy look old and gnarly, and I've just added some the Dirty Downs Rust in and around any of the chains or metallic areas just to make them look really old and weathered. I know like Slaanesh is a little bit more pristine, but I do like to weather up my miniatures quite a bit on some of those metal areas. And then finally, on the cape at the back, I've got abtelung 502's oil paint dust. Sorry, not dust. Yeah, it is dust. And I'm just dabbing this around the lower half of the cape. You can put some on the legs if you want to as well. And then just with a brush, clean brush, just lightly moistened, I've just come in with this stippling, dabbing and just making it look gnarly and streaky in some areas. And you can really blend and feather, you know, these effects with the oil paints and get some really nice blends with them. You could do this with acrylics, but obviously you'd have to take your time as well. And then if you want to get some contrast paints and add a little bit of some speckling or some splatters up, there's also some mud or just grimes just spilted up there, you can do that as well. And speaking of contrast paints, on his head he's got these little horn skin things coming off, and I just got some contrast paint, so dark brown, and just lightly filtered and feathered and like glazed it onto those areas as well. As one little addition for the gore, I obviously got some blood for the blood god or any sort of blood effects and just stippled and splattered this onto the weapon. And then again I came in with the Dirty Downs blood, I think, or gore it's called. And to be fair, you know, it is a really good, quick, easy product to add some like gore and nasty drips coming from your creatures. It is very similar to the Yoo-hoo glue, and you could mix a bit of the, you know, the blood for the blood god with Yoo-hoo glue to get the same effect. It does pretty much the same thing. It's just nicer to have it in a pot just to dip in and dip straight out. Also, before you jump off the video and we get to the end, I just obviously want to remind you all that all the products and everything that you've seen in this video, I do have affiliate links in the description below. And even if you're just going to make a general purchase, please use my affiliate links below, because I do get a little bit of a kickback, and it's just a way that you can say thank you to me and my channel. Obviously down there you'll see like there's the buy me a coffee link and all that, because people keep asking me other ways that they can support me. But the best way that you can support me is by simply liking this video, add a little comment just to help the algorithm, even if it's just, hey, great work, or that looks shit. It's entirely up to you what you want to comment on there. It'll just help me out, and that's the best way that you can support me and my channel. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, as we do have some more videos on the Emperor's Children coming out very soon. And then also, I can't wait for the fulgrim. Oh god, I can't wait to get my hands on the new fulgrim miniature. So yeah, that brings us to the end of this tutorial. I'd like to thank you all again for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've been able to take something away from it. But until next time, guys, I will catch you in my next video.